Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen, nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our fiqh half hour on Wednesday, the 19th of March, which correlates with the 20th of Ramadan, as obviously the night precedes the day. So without further ado, let's crack on with the old questions, as they say. So let's find the questions first on this group. So we're going to start with the gents group first. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Honorable Mufti Sahib, what is the Sharia ruling on people or children lacking capacity or with other mental health problems, such as anxiety, depression, and autism or ADHD? It can be really difficult for neurodivergent people, as they're also more susceptible to also having acute mental health issues, and can be difficult to perform ibadah, even in Ramadan. Request for your pious du'as. Of course, the Sharia does take into consideration the individual's physical and mental state when it comes to the legal responsibilities that are placed on a person. From what we can see, there was just something literally in the news recently of a chap who has been now sentenced, that was accused of killing his mother, his sister and brother, and then was attempting to go to a local primary school of which he was a student in order to kill the students at the school. And he had a form of autism. But the psychologists said that he was still culpable because he was aware of what he was doing, and it was planned, and it's not that he did not understand the gravity of the task. So therefore, we cannot have a blanket statement of any mental condition which can have a repercussion. I guess it's on a case-by-case basis, but generally speaking, the threshold is quite high for not considering a person responsible in Sharia. The threshold is quite high. When we get into these are ritual acts, when we get into kind of corporal punishments, then I guess until we have a Sharia legal system in place, then it's somewhat academic, the conversation. But it won't be too much different than what we see in played out in courts here in the UK, or played out in courts anywhere else for that matter, where a specialist will be called in order to make an assessment of the individual and how responsible they were. Barakallah fiqh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Mufti. What is the ruling on receiving B12 injections while fasting if your B12 is low and the doctor is recommending it? Request for your pious du'as for me and my family, please. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, when it comes to injections of this nature, then I don't know how this is given, but I'm assuming that this will be straight into the bloodstream. Then there is permissibility for a person if they require B12 injections. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Musab. There are a lot of hadiths related to bathroom etiquettes in Islam, like seeking refuge in Allah upon entering, maintaining silence, not reciting the Quran, the ject. Did they have a designated bathroom in their house where they read dua before entering, or was it an area outside? If an area outside, when do we read the dua? Yeah, this is a confusion that people do get. The confusion that people get is that at what point do you read the dua of entering the toilet? Some people have a toilet with a wash basin in a separate little room, but most people have a toilet, a wash basin, and a bath, or a toilet, a wash basin, and a shower in one room. And then they get confused as to at what point are they entering the toilet area, and at what point are they entering or exiting the toilet area. So what we tend to find is people place those du'as on the toilet door, on the bathroom door, and they make an assumption that everything within the bathroom now is considered as a place of najasa. Back in the day, we have to understand that toilets were not actually in the house. In fact, when I was growing up in the 70s, we did not have a toilet in the house here in the UK. We used to have a toilet outside in the back garden, and it was not very nice, but you had to go out into the back garden in order to answer the call of nature. So at night, you'd have a little, kind of like a little basin, a little vessel that you would keep under the bed. So if you needed to go for a number one, then you would just go in the number one in the little bowl, and then obviously clean out in the morning, because nobody ventured had the heart to go out in the middle of the night into the toilet, because first of all it'd be cold. Secondly, there was quite a lot of rats around, and obviously it's a najasat area, so people would go out. So even in the UK in the 70s and prior to that, toilets used to be outside the house. I guess in more renovated areas, in more well-to-do areas, I'm assuming they would have our toilets inside. But I was growing up in inner city Bradford, so we didn't have those luxuries, shall we say. In the days gone by, then yes, people would never have a toilet inside their house. They would leave to go out into the kind of sticks a little bit. Even when I traveled to Pakistan way back in the early 80s and stayed over at an auntie's house, they did not have a toilet inside the house. The toilet was outside in the yard. Basically, the toilet was 2 bricks on this side, 2 bricks on that side. You balance on the 2 bricks. You have like a muddy bit in the middle, and you do your thing. And once you've done your thing, then you mix your thing with the mud that's there, and then you slop it onto like a little kind of, I don't know, like a platey type thing. And then you place that on your head and you go to the village dump, and then you chuck it in the village dump, and then you come back. Now, obviously, in Pakistan, we have toilets inside as well. So you can see that with the development of sanitation and with the development of that, toilets have come inside the house. Otherwise, toilets used to be outside of the house. And so when a person was going to answer the call of nature behind a bush, behind a tree, he would then make his dua, remove his garments, and answer the call of nature. And then his thing would be whatever you could get your hands on: a clot of mud, some leaves, a bit of greenery, literally whatever you could get your hands on, and that would be it. And so coming back into the modern world, and if you have a toilet which is in the bathroom, then when you're going to the toilet, yani for the sake of istinja, and you make a step towards the toilet and you're in the toilet region, that's when you make your dua. Okay. But not if you're going to go clean the toilet. You don't need to make dua, because you're just cleaning. It's if you're going to go to the toilet to answer the call of nature. And once you've relieved yourself and you've flushed and whatever, and now you're stepping away, at that point you make your dua. Because when you're going to make wudu, say, at the sink, then you're in a clean area. Okay, that's not an impure area. So I hope that makes sense. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. When I was in India during Ramadan, my uncle, who had lived in Saudi for a long time, was also present. During Sahri, he used to eat and drink until the Fajr Azan was called out, whereas we stopped 10 minutes before, as recommended by a local masjid. We follow the Hanafi school. My uncle claimed that he was following what the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba did during the time to eat and drink until Fajr Azan was given. Is this true? What your uncle needs to understand is at what point the Azan is being called. In the times gone by, when Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Maktoum was calling the Azan, he was calling the Azan as soon as dawn broke. So as soon as dawn broke, he would call the Azan. So as soon as he said Allahu Akbar, that's it. People would stop eating, because he was told, because obviously the Sahabi was blind, the companions would tell him that the dawn has broken. And when dawn had broken, he would say Allahu Akbar. And as soon as he said Allahu Akbar, people would stop eating. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly when dawn is being broken. We are using, in most cases, an astronomical phenomenon as a substitute for dawn is breaking, because we don't look across at the horizon waiting for dawn to break. And even if we looked across the horizon for dawn to break, due to light pollution and also due to build-up that we have of buildings and people living, whatever, it is very difficult. And we've done a lot of research into this. It is very difficult to be able to see when true dawn breaks. So the advice is that you should stop eating prior to that. And in some cases, you see the adhan for Fajr is only called when the Salah time is about to take place. It doesn't necessarily necessitate that this is the time to make imsak. So he needs to understand, your uncle, the difference between the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, when the azan which was being called was for imsak, and now in present day and age where the azan is called for salah. So there are two different reasons the azan is being called for. Hence the reason why a person should go upon the advice of the timetable that we have, and as a precautionary measure, finish a few minutes early in order to avoid that. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. Please do put your questions there, sir. Assalamu alaikum, respected Mufti Sahib. What is the ruling on purchasing a vehicle on HP, hire purchase, or PCP, personal contract purchase, or leasing? Are we allowed to buy a car with these methods, and are they Sharia compliant? And what about paying car insurance on a monthly basis as opposed to one-off lump sum for the 12-month period? Of course, we can buy cars using a leasing method or a purchase method or a hire purchase method or anything of that nature, as long as the transaction is Sharia compliant. That I cannot say until I see the actual transaction. So if the transaction is Sharia compliant, then that's absolutely fine. Okay. So if, for example, you are paying, I don't know, £500 a month, and in that £500, £300 is for hiring the car, and £200 pays towards the cost of the car, and at the end of 2 years you own the car, then that's absolutely fine, as long as there's no riba, as long as there's no gharar, as long as there's no shurutul fasida, as long as there's nothing problematic in the way the contract is structured, then the mechanism is absolutely fine. Okay. Similarly for any of the others. In terms of car insurance, what you find is when you pay a lump sum as a one-off, then there is no interest charged. Okay. Whereas if you pay monthly, then they charge interest. So you need to look at to answer this question is near impossible unless you look at the mechanics of it. And the mechanics can vary. It's like saying, can I buy a mug of coffee? I would say yes. But if the mug of coffee you're having to buy is on a riba loan, then the answer is no. So it really depends on the financial mechanism which is being used in order to make that purchase of this particular, say, car or the insurance. As we know, the fundamentals, anything in which there is interest is impermissible. Anything in which there is gharar, it is impermissible. Anything in which there's a shurutul fasida within the contract is impermissible. But I've talked about this in length on other videos on my YouTube channel, so please do watch them in more detail. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. For a moon sighting to be valid in a country, does there have to be a sighting in a country to its east? Wa alaikum salam. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is a method for you determining whether a moon sighting is valid. What we can say is that it would be somewhat suspicious if a moon sighting was claimed and then to the west of that country, not to the east, to the west of that country, no other country saw it. That would be suspicious. So let's just say we're coming, because the sun rises in the east and the day starts in the east. So the moon sighting, the night is going to happen in the east first. So therefore you would expect the eastern countries to sight the moon first. If it so happens that we don't see the moon, and then, I don't know, the moon is seen in Yemen, say. Now, because the moon has been seen in Yemen, we would expect all the countries of the West to also see the moon, because the moon is getting older. If it's already been sighted there, the chances of it being sighted as you move further to the West is increasing, not decreasing. So if we find that no other country to the west of Yemen sights it, then this is an anomaly. This doesn't make sense. Why is it that Yemen saw it and nobody else saw it in the whole planet? It raises a question. It makes us suspicious. It brings that sighting into some level of disrepute. Assalamu alaikum. Excuse me. I hope you're well. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Do you know of an organization that can fund a course in a madrasa to becoming an alim? I live in France. Not that I know of personally. I'm sure there are courses available online that do maybe have available for somebody to sponsor a student. So that might be a possibility. So I would just do a quick search online and see what your possibilities are. Forward question. Salam, is it okay to have this medicine because it contains gelatin? If we cannot find alternative, is it allowed? So generally speaking, that anything which has gelatin in it, we make the assumption, if it's not clarified, that this is from a non-halal source. If it is from a non-halal source, then this is something that should be avoided. I had a quick look at this medicine, and this medicine is for an upset tummy, for having problematic stomach, because obviously everybody's consuming food between several hours. Therefore, there's going to be this issue of having problems with the stomach. There are alternatives to this. So therefore, one should consume the alternatives, because I know that there's alternatives available. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Kindly explain the sequence of events of the day of Qiyamah from the blowing of the first horn to the second up to the entry into Al-Jannah or Jahannam. Okay. So from a sound source, it is very difficult to find the full chronological order. But gathering together the various verses and the ahadith, one can understand that life carries on this planet until, as we individuals, we die. So as individuals, we die, and that brings to the end our life. But the world continues until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the day of judgment. We get the signs before the day of judgment. You know, we've already know the signs, the minor signs, the major signs. I'm sure there's a lecture that I've done on it. I'm sure there's other ulama have done lectures on this, so you'll find lots of reputable ulama that have spoken about this, the minor and the major signs for the day of judgment. But once the day of judgment comes, the bugle is blown. When the bugle is blown, everything dies. Every single thing dies on the surface of the earth. If we've already might have died centuries earlier, but anybody that's on the surface of the earth dies. The bugle is blown a second time, and when the second time the bugle is blown, this is the resurrection. So everybody comes out from there, and I want to do that little air speech marks. Okay, wait, need to put my phone down. Everybody is resurrected from their graves. Because obviously graves is just a loose definition of where you are resting when you die, or where you are when you die. Because if a person dies at sea, then obviously he was never buried. If a person is eaten by a lion, then he was never buried. If a person vaporized in a volcano, then he was never buried. So when I say graves, that's why I did those kind of air speech marks, is because what I mean by that is that those people who are in the next stage, and the grave we call barzakh. Okay, barzakh. So when the second bugle is blown, everyone is resurrected from the barzakh. They come back from the barzakh, and the first thing they feel is intense thirst. So because they feel intense thirst, they will go to the hawd. And this is, we hear that in Al-Hakum al-Takasur hatta zurtum al-Maqam. No, that's not it. Idha Ja'an. No, that's not it. Inna atayna kal-Kawthar. And you would get there eventually. Okay, Al-Kawthar. And Al-Kawthar is like, this is like in some places it's described like a river. In some places it's described like a lake. In some descriptions, it sounds like a well. So it's a source of water. And it mentions that it's sweet, like milk, and it's very nourishing, and it's very thirst quenching. That just a drop or a little bit can immediately replenish this person's thirst. Because think about you, the man's been dead for eternity, and he's now resurrected. We all walk towards the gathering, okay, the hashar. And as we walk towards the gathering, this is where the sun descends, okay? And this is now depends on the state of the person. There are certain groups of people that are protected under the arsh of Allah, and they sit under the arsh of Allah, and they don't feel this intense heat. The rest of us will feel this intense heat, and as a consequence, we will perspire. And we will then be in our perspiration according to the state we are in. Some perspire up to the ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, lips, and even beyond. At this point, then the next stage which comes is the intercession from the Prophet ﷺ. Some will mention that this intercession. Some will mention that this intercession comes later on, because people have already been entered into Jahannam, and Allah SWT sends the Prophet ﷺ in order to go and pull out the people from Jahannam who have an X amount of Iman in their hearts. And then he comes back and he begs again, when we're running from one Nabi to another Nabi. And then he goes again and he extracts people who have a significant less amount of Iman from their hearts. And then the third time. So it seems that there might be two sort of intercessions. One is this intercession when we're running around on Yawm al-Hashr, going to Adam alayhi salam, going to Yusuf alayhi salam, going to Nuh alayhi salam, going to all these Anbiya, Isa alayhi salam, and we're being turned away by each Nabi saying nafsi, nafsi. Each one is thinking about their own predicament until we reach the Prophet alayhi salam. The Prophet alayhi salam goes forward to the throne, and he submits himself to Allah, and he asks for intercession. So this is the intercession I'm talking about at this point. After this point, we go to hisab. Hisab is when the scales come out, the pans on either side, and our good deeds are weighed. Okay. This is also the point when, if we've done injustices against people, they stand up and they will either take our good deeds because we don't have any other form of currency, or when our good deeds finish, then they will place upon us their sins, unfortunately. So these are weighed up. After that, our kitab is given to us. Okay, so the kitab is given either on the right hand side. That means you pass the exam. Okay, you get your book in your right hand side, or some are given the book from behind or on the left hand side, and these people are the ones, unfortunately, who failed. We know obviously that the groups of people are split into as-sabiqun, ashabul maymana, ashabul mash'ama. Surah Waqf describes this event in great detail. And then once we proceed past this point, we're now near the end goal, and we have to cover the bridge over the back of Jahannam. Again, we can, there's pitch black as we approach this bridge. Depending on your state is how much light you have around you. Depending on your state, depends how fast you cross this bridge, and then you make it to the other side, and people enter into Jannah or people enter into Jahannam. That's a very summarized version of events of the Day of Judgment in as close to a sequence as I can think of. Assalamu alaikum. I would appreciate the following query being addressed. If Wifaqul Ulama consistently discredited sightings of the moon in Saudi Arabia by two well-known moon spotters or astronomers using telescopes, then why did it deem it credible to accept a sighting in the UK by one man with the binoculars? I have answered this because this is something which cannot be answered in a short way. What we can say in a short way is that the sightings which come from Saudi Arabia are seriously problematic. That's the issue here. Okay, none of the astronomers in Saudi Arabia cite it. In fact, they say it is not possible to cite it. Those who are actual experts, they don't cite it. It tends to be people who are not necessarily experts who cite it and make that claim. And then they make that claim when it is not physically possible to cite it. Secondly, they make their claim and it's isolated. Thirdly, they make their claim usually using CCD, and therefore there is no possibility. The citing which Wifaqul Ulama did accept, which was on the Ramaḍān of this year, was because, one, it was possible to cite it with assisted eye. So it wasn't as though the citing was out of the blue. It was possible to cite, and therefore it was not anomaly. It did not defy physics. And therefore, when it is possible to cite, and there is an element of cloud or at least atmospheric conditions which make it difficult to see, therefore the citing of one individual suffices. But I've put on the group because this requires you to read my paper, which is on there. The paper is called The Islamic Calendar According to Muslims in the UK. It's on the Markaz al-Ifta wal Qāḍī gents group. So read that. That's a good, I don't know how many pages, but it's fun to read. It's 47 pages. So that's a fun research paper to read. And there's lots of videos I've done. Lots of videos on this channel, lots of videos on other channel. All you have to do is search Mufti Amjad moon sighting and you'll be inundated by videos. Assalamu alaikum. I have some questions for the next fiqh hour. Well, it's the next fiqh half hour because we can't do fiqh hours. Otherwise, we will go well into, we're already close to the fiqh half hour because we're on 24 minutes. So we've got 6 minutes to go. And we still haven't got onto the ladies yet, and we still haven't touched Ihtisham's question yet. Assalamu alaikum. I have some questions for the next fiqh hour, fiqh half hour, but I think we resolved that. I know that doubts do not break wudu, but what about doubt that occurs while making wudu? Any doubt you experience while making wudu can be eradicated by performing that act which you are doubtful about. Do splashes from the toilet, if a drop of urine fell into it, count as impurity? What can be done about this? It's hard to deal with that when out in public. Yeah. So Salman, I think you have a lot of what we call, shak. And therefore, I'm going to answer the following questions bearing your potential state in mind. If one wipes over an impurity, could it be considered it spreads the purity and now covers an area more than dirham? I've answered many questions on this type of area. So I think with your case, you need to abandon your shak, not think too much about it, because this is going to cause you more harm than any good. Do sins multiply in Laylatul Qadr or only good deeds? Is there a difference of opinion on this? It would be considered more sinful. I doubt that sins multiply, but it would be considered more sinful if there was a serious special day or a special place and we did not value it. So, for example, Laylatul Qadr, Ramadan, in the Haram, in Masjid Nabwi, in Aqsa, places like that where there are special places or special times. If we don't respect them, then that is considered as more sinful. Does it constitute numerically more sins? I can't recall reading anything specifically about that, a sound narration about that. So therefore, all I would say is that because you are not only are you sinning, you are also belittling what we call the sha'air. The sha'air are like the symbols of Islam. Then that's a sin in itself. And then because you're not showing respect to a particular place or respect to a particular day, then that's another sin. So you could argue that there's more sins from that perspective. I hope that makes sense. Does intention to break wudu break the wudu? No, breaking wudu breaks the wudu. If water has to flow over the entire limb or face, how does one ensure water flows? Flowing water it's flowing. You can tell by the quantity of water you're putting on it. Okay. So as I said, I'm not going to answer too many of these questions because I think you're trapped into the little trapped into the shak issue, and this is just gonna compound it further. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Need advice from Muslim limited company owners or a scholar? Fortunately for you, I'm both. I got a small limited company opened a couple of years ago. I'm the director of that company. I take monthly salary from it. I got saving in that company now and want to ask you how to pay zakat on that savings. I'm not the shareholder. So whose money is it? It's the company asset. The company does not own anything. It's whoever owns the company. And from your description, you own the company as you're the only director. And since you're the only director, you own the company. Therefore, anything in the company is yours. And even though you may be taking your wage as an employee from the company, you still own the company. Okay. And as you still own the company, you are responsible for the company paying zakat on any of the company's savings. Hope that makes sense. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, this has been answered several times, brother. Okay, let's jump onto these questions. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ihtisham. If I walk into Taraweeh late and pray my 4 Fard Isha, do I pray my 2 sunnahs separately? Yes, I would pray your 2 sunnahs separately and then join with the Taraweeh. If a partner has debt, I'm assuming this means a business partner, can their spouse pay part of the debt as zakat? No, we are of the view, the Ahnaf are of the view that spouses should not be giving zakat to each other. Okay. So that answers that. Let me jump on to the ladies group. How far back do I go? Maybe it helps if I'm on the ladies group. I wasn't actually on the ladies group. I was on another group. Maybe that's the reason why. Okay, so Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, you're well. Alhamdulillah, sister, I'm good. I pray Ramadan is going well for you and family, inshallah. Barakallah fiqh. Questions for tomorrow or today. Following up from my question from last week, I've looked up a number of charities kafara costs. They are as below. £240 for 4 charities, £300 for 6 charities, and £360 for 2 charities. The calculation are based on 2 meals per day at 60 days. There's no further breakdown or info available on any of their websites. This adds up to 144,000. No. Kafara is the penalty you pay, okay, of feeding 60 people. Qāḍī is the penalty you pay for missing a single fast. So that's where you're confused. So if a person broke a fast after making intention to keep a fast for no reason, he has to fast 60 days. Okay, that's called kafara. Then he has to make qadha of the fast he broke. So 60 days he does as kafara and then the qadha of the fast he broke. If for whatever reason a person can't do kafara, he's broken a years of fasting and now he can't now. Okay, he's 80 years old and somebody tells him that, you remember that fast you broke when you were 21? And he remembers anything. Oh yeah, I did, didn't I? Yes, you did. Did you do your 60 days fasting? And he says, no, I didn't. But now I'm stuck. I'm 80 years old. I don't have the health to fast 60 days. Okay, you need to give kafara. So kafara is this one-off payment of £240 or £300 or 360. You don't multiply this by £240. Otherwise, you're going to go bankrupt. Okay. If this person missed 600 fasts, okay. If you missed 600 fasts, okay, then there is only qadha due. Okay. If you broke a fast in one Ramadan, then there will be kafara due. But from your description, it seems to suggest that this person has not fasted 600 fasts. That's 20 years, if my maths works correctly. So this person has not fasted for 20 years. By not fasting for 20 years, he needs to give fidya for 600 fasts, not kafara. Kafara is if you break a fast. Note the difference between kafara and fidya. If you go to olivelanterntrust.com, which is where you should have gone, sister. If you go to olivelanterntrust.com, you will see under kafara an explanation there. Okay. For all your zakat and charity needs, go to olivelanterntrust.com, a reliable charity that I'm personally responsible for. So if you go there, you'll be okay. That will explain the difference between kafara and fidya. Similarly, if you're not so sure, you can also go to wifaqululama.co.uk. They will explain it as well. I'm asking on behalf of a friend's father who has a few health conditions, so he won't be able to fast continuously, nor pay the amount of. So I hope that makes sense. Number 2, is it incorrect to start with Bismillah when reciting a short surah during Salah? I was taught to do this many, many years ago, but whenever I prayed in Jamaat, I haven't seen this. We don't. We do it inaudibly. Okay? We do it inaudibly. According to Ahnaf, Basmala is recited inaudibly. My sister and her husband are planning to go on Umrah soon and want to take my mum along. Would it be permissible for me to travel with them to assist my mum? No, because you don't have a mahram. Your sister has a mahram, her husband. Well, you don't have a mahram. She doesn't want to travel with them alone as it will be inconveniencing them as she has some health issues and limited mobility. If Isha is best prayed in the last third of the night, would it be better to pray a short while before Fajr? If you think you can get up that time, it's usually not it's the time, because there's obviously before midnight as well that it should be prayed before. The witr should be prayed in the last third. Assalamu alaikum, Sahib. Is the practice of individuals collaboratively reciting and sharing specific juz of the Quran via WhatsApp following the death of someone permissible, or does it constitute a bid'ah? Yeah, it's a difficult one, is this one, because it's an innovative practice. That's clear. Okay, it's not something that the Prophet ﷺ did. He didn't say to the Sahaba, okay, let me divvy up the Quran now and each one of you read a juz or something for this person who's dead. So this is something that we do. Okay, can you recite the Quran for the dead? Of course you can. You can recite the Quran for the dead. Can you use some administrative methods like WhatsApp or whatever to help you do that? I guess so. So there is some scope of doing it like this, but one has to be absolutely sure this is not the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ did not do this, and one knows that this is not a ritual practice, but rather we're acting on the general advice of doing Isal Thawab for the deceased. Reciting the Quran is a method of Isal Thawab, and we decided, okay, we want to do a full Khatm al-Quran for this person, and we just need a simple way of divvying it up. So there is some scope for it, but we shouldn't make this, it happens a lot amongst women, unfortunately. Men don't tend to do this. Women are very much into, oh, let's do a khatam for khala fala, let's do a khatam for fala fala, just recite the Quran. And because it becomes public, then it becomes a little bit shosha. Oh, I finished my second para, give me a next one. Oh, I finished my ninth, just give me a next one. And it becomes like competition. And so, we have to be a little bit careful. According to the charity's website, it's this amount per missed fast. Apologies if it sounds confusing. The 600 is a combination of missed and broken intention. Yes, that's what you would need to look into that, sister. Thanks for getting back so quickly, alhamdulillah. Yeah, you would need to look into that because, as I've explained, fidya is for a missed fast, okay, or a missed salah, right? Kafara is by the name expiation. You have committed a sin, the sin of breaking a fast. And then one kafara can suffice in a Ramadan for multiple breaking of fasts. So you need to just maybe, as I said, if you go to our website, both wifaqululama.co.uk, I think, and olivelanterntrust.com, I think, then and look for kafar and fidya, there should be a detailed explanation there, inshallah. And if that works for you, good for you. If not, please come back, put the question again, and we will, inshallah, by the time it's out, be clear. But let me just again reiterate, fidya is when you've missed a fast, you did not even make near to keep it, and now unfortunately you don't have capacity to make a qada. Kafara is a penalty. Why? Because you started a fast and then you broke it for no reason, for no legal reason, not because you're feeling unwell, not because of this, not because of that. You just thought, Chalo, I'm just going to break this fast. Okay, in those circumstances, one has to give kafara. Kafara is to fast 60 fasts consecutively, perpetually. Okay, and then the one that we broke. But if we get to a stage later in life where we don't have the ability to do 60 fasts, then we can give kafara. Okay, and that's the expiation which you've described there of 2 meals, 60 days for one person, or one, twice for 60 people. Hope that makes sense. I opened ISA account, didn't realize it was getting interest. The interest was reinvested to the stocks. I went through records, removed amount of interest earned. What do I do about profit from the stocks? Yeah, it's going to be difficult for you to tell as to how much of this profit is due to the interest, but I guess you can work out from the percentage. So if, say, for example, £1,000 was invested and 950 was your money and 50 was interest, then you can work out that 95% of the profits are based on your earnings of your money, and 5% of the profit is based from the interest which was reinvested. That's the only way you can work it out as a general way, and then you can give that away. Okay, so again, we've gone past our 30-minute slot. We're on 37 minutes. I'll wait about 30 seconds in case somebody has any more questions. If not, inshallah, join me tomorrow, same time, 7:20, for our Ayyuhal Walad. We're moving swiftly through Ayyuhal Walad. We're on, I can't remember where we're on, I think 15th or something like that, of 24. So you can tell we're now getting at the back end of Ramadan. Obviously, tomorrow night, we will start, not tomorrow night, the night after, our itikaf. For those who are doing itikaf will start this year. I'm not going for itikaf. Usually I do go, alhamdulillah, may Allah accept. But this year I won't be traveling for itikaf. So I will be available for you for your fiqh hours and your ayyuhal walads, inshallah. But yes, we're now getting at the business end of things. So if you feel you've been slacking the last 10, 20 days, now is the time to pick your game up. Okay, and really productively plan your next 10, 11 days out, 12 days out, so that you can get a good result. Because if you've not really performed well, push this through. Okay, push this through, inshallah. This happened for years, though. Value fluctuates a lot very frequently. Yes, you can only do as best as you can, Kindle fan, whatever that means. You can only do as best as you can. There is no other way around it, is that anything which was of interest money is not permissible for you to take, to benefit from. You're supposed to give that away. But obviously, unfortunately, it's been reinvested. So you're going to have to go through each year's balance, and whenever the interest was reinvested, and calculate that accordingly. So I think we have reached a point on there. Again, I'll give the last 30 seconds on here before we jump off, inshallah. And like I said, tomorrow back at 7:20 with Ayyuhal Walad. And then it will be the last Ramadan fiqh half hour next week, inshallah, next Wednesday, on Wednesday, the 26th of March. That will be the last fiqh half hour. And then we'll probably return back to our fiqh hour, but that will be more on demand. So probably once a month, I think, is about right. It tends to go quiet outside of Ramadan. We're very religiously interested in our religious practice in Ramadan, but as soon as Ramadan goes, we start to switch back off again. But anyway, maybe not this year, inshallah. Khair, I think I've given enough time for any outstanding questions to come forward. Jazakallah khair again. See you tomorrow, inshallah, 7:20 with Ayyuhal Walad. And we are on council number 15. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.